Another interesting way that I think the key failure for a lot of these models was actually in communicating the uncertainty behind the model. So you'd see things like Joe Biden has a 95.67 chance of winning on sites like The Economist, right? And getting that really precise number actually over projects confidence in what that number actually is. And that is something you need to be very careful about when you're using modeling techniques. Is it's going to give you, if you put data through some model, it's going to give you a very, very precise number as an output. And you need to be able to take that and communicate that back out that also incorporates some sense of uncertainty. So you, instead of giving a very tiny, precise digit number, giving a range of numbers is often helpful, or scrapping the number altogether and giving some sort of like coded block. So unlikely, kind of likely, very likely. Those would have been more useful ways of communicating uncertainty behind the output of the model, but would still give you actionable information. If the model says, hey, Joe Biden's very likely to become president or kind of likely to become president, I think it would have communicated both the likelihood and the uncertainty behind it better than saying, hey, Joe Biden is 95.697% likely to get out there. Then another, and I think final lesson here that I think is really interesting and something you need to consider when building and deploying models for your organization is there's been recent research out of both the University of Pennsylvania and Dartmouth showing that with election modeling, that the actual, because it has interacted with the media ecosystem, the results of the model and the reporting on that model actually influence behavior of the people that receive the results of that model. So that's something that was seen in the 2016 election. People have gone back and studied this, that the more confident somebody was of the outcome, whether you were very confident that Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump was going to win, the less likely you were to actually show up and vote. And what happened is there were these models saying Hillary Clinton was 99% likely to win the election. And there was some chunk of the electorate that believed that and said, I'm not going to take off work. Like there's some cost associated with me going to the polls, right? And the way they actually showed this, so they went back and looked at historical data, but they also created this cool little election simulation game where you had to put down $1 anytime you wanted to vote in your election simulation game. And they had this sort of algorithm that put out different, it was kind of a fake outcome, but they would put out different, like, hey, the thing that's going to happen that you want to vote on, put your dollar down on, is 99% likely to happen or 50-50. And they saw that actual participation increased the closer it was to 50-50. So what they found is there's this feedback loop. So the actual results of your analysis, if they get fed back in and people seeing your analysis then change their behavior, you need to be very careful of that. You need to understand that you are existing in a dynamic system where your model actually changes the behavior that it's looking for. And when that happens, the model then becomes quickly invalidated. So that's a really interesting finding that I think is going to need to be taken into account both for election modeling in the future, but for you and your organization when you start deploying predictive models. Think about how people receive the results of that model, communicate the uncertainty, and then act on it.